It's Thursday, it's 11 o'clock, and it's time for the watch drop. My name is not Tim Green, my name is Justin Hassan. I'm here stepping in for Tim this week. I'm delighted to be here because for weeks and weeks now, I've been on the other side of the camera. I am a huge watch lover and fan of the series Subdial I've been running, so I'm stepping in for Tim. Firstly, before we get to this incredible selection of new watches, we have to touch on the watch wall here that we've just had installed at the new Subdial clubhouse. It's absolutely bonkers. You can come in and you can ask one of the team to pull a watch from the wall and you can try it on and get hands on. It's incredible. The space, by the way, is also wonderful. It's a view I never thought I'd have because I'm always the one watching these from Tim. It's just a lovely selection of watches. My focus this week is going to be on wearability. As an owner of so many different watches over the years, it's the one thing that keeps you coming back to a watch. It's the thing that draws you to a watch, that is that unquantifiable element of just comfort, robustness, ease of use. And that's going to be the focus for our watch drop this week. My first pick is a Reverso. JLC this year at Watches and Wonders has had a stonker of a year, and the Reverso, I think, is back hotter than ever. This may well be my favorite Reverso of all time, and when I saw the list of watches coming through, I was buzzing to get hands on with it. This is a 1931 Tribute, and it is a grand version, chocolate dial, based on a 1930s reference that Jaeger produced actually for an Argentinian retailer that had the same dial layout, but a black dial that then patinated over time to then turn this wonderful, dark, rich chocolate color. And as a result, Jaeger produced this Tribute edition. For me, if you're buying a Reverso, it has to be the Tribute. It's just so thin and so elegant. It is a monoface. You can turn it over, and on the case back, you've got the space to do something intriguing, be it an engraving or an enameling or otherwise. And because it's in gold, you can do that. On steel references, you can only engrave, which is slightly restrictive. So this in rose gold or red gold is just stunning. And the combination of that chocolate dial and the red gold case is just gorgeous. As well as that, it's worth noting it's hand wound. Look how crispy. That is just so gorgeous. It's just absolutely a joy to wind. And when we say wearability, you know, it comes to life on the wrist. It really does. There's nothing quite like it, be it the shape, but also the combination on the dial and the case. And the cherry on the cake for me is the Casa Fagliano strap, because we have this history of the early reference that was an Argentinian retailer. It's only right that we have an Argentinian saddle maker in Casa Fagliano, who are the producers of this amazing strap. Again, I just love the stitching and the step detail that gives it a sportiness, actually, an elegance and a sportiness that is just unlike anything else. So for me, this Tribute is something really special, and deep down, I'm hoping that no one else snags it because it's something that I'm considering for next week. So let's see how we go. Absolute beauty. So guys, next up is one that I've actually got to get on the wrist because it's that good. It is a 50 Fathoms from Blancpain, but made for HODINKEE. 250 were made in this limited edition. HODINKEE actually over the years have done two different variations of the 50 Fathoms, slightly smaller one and a slightly larger one. This is the 40mm one, which I personally prefer. But one of the real kickers here is the fact that there isn't a date, because all too often, and kudos to the HODINKEE team, because the one thing they did was say, guys, let's delete the date. And that is what they've done on this reference. It's got that famous bezel that is just slightly more recognizable than anything else from the likes of Rolex. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing on the wrist. It's got this tropical rubber strap. I love the simplicity of the dial layout. I love the hands. The hands are absolutely flat to the dial. They're painted white, and the running seconds in the center is also painted white to sort of echo the perimeters of the different markers on the dial. And it's just seamless. This is dive watch heaven. It really, really is. You then got this very, very unusual indicator at 6 o'clock, which of course harks back to vintage references, which was a way for an owner, a diver, to tell whether water had actually made its way into the watch itself, which of course was never a good thing, and is never a good thing. And I just love this. It just sits beautifully. It's not one of those dive watches that feels cumbersome on the wrist. It's not one you would wear necessarily with a jacket, but it does slide under a cuff either way. So this is peak summer for me. And at 40 millimeters, it wears perfectly. While we touched on the winding of the Reverso before, we have to touch on the sound, because it's these types of things that make the difference when you own the watch. But listen to this as you rotate the bezel. Unidirectional, so only the one way, but just so satisfying. Of course, not a Bakelite bezel, but has that feel of the old Bakelite bezels. Really very, very beautiful. And this particular model, this particular reference, in such great condition. Beautiful, beautiful watch. And for me, I would finally just touch on the fact that it's probably also a little bit unexpected. It's not the diver that you'd expect to see on the wrist, which I love. Next up is a bracelet. So we've had two straps. We've had a dress watch with a strap. We've had a dive watch with a rubber strap. And next up, we've got another 40mm option, but we've got it on a bracelet. This is the IWC Ingenieur. And it's a watch that I'm very close with, because for many years I've worked with IWC. I've had the opportunity to interview Mrs. Genter, the late Gerald Genter's wife, who lives on in so many ways and takes his work to the world. And this is a watch that was produced originally, the Ingenieur, in the 50s, then re-looked at again by Genter in the 70s. And it was probably not his greatest work, it's fair to say. And IWC reference it as their greatest flop. You can kind of understand, because it's got lots of charm, but in the hand, it's very clunky. The bracelet's very thick, the case is very thick. It's very 70s. Not in the 70s of the 3700-esque Nautilus, which was very fine and very thin. It was a bit clunky. And so IWC over the years in the 2000s looked at the Ingenieur again and tried to re-innovate on it, but it didn't quite hit the spot. For this version, which came out in a black dial, a white dial, and an aqua dial, which was a full reassessment of the Ingenieur, from the bracelet to the way the bracelet sits, to the integration into the case itself, and to the dial, the markers, the hands, a full ground up restoration. And they've done a fantastic job. You know, it's just incredibly comfortable. And you know, this episode is all about wearability. So if you're going to have a bracelet watch, this really is one that you can hardly go wrong with. It's so easy to wear, so easy to use. It's a screw down crown as well. It's a butterfly clasp on the bracelet there, and closed case back as you would want from a watch of this kind. And the screw down is very, very simple, very satisfying. You've got this wonderful chessboard dial. I think black is probably the most wearable out of all of them. It's got that timeless quintessential aspect to it, and it just provides real depth to a dial and to a case, which is incredibly thin as well. You've got protective guards, crown guards, to ensure that there's no damage, that the crown isn't knocked off, which is in addition to this new version. And the bracelet is beautifully beveled on its edge. It really is a piece of art. So the Ingenieur from IWC, they've kept the original logo there at 6 o'clock, which I personally love, but look at that on the wrist there. Incredibly easy to wear. And again, probably, and you're starting to see a theme here with my personal collecting, probably not the obvious bracelet watch to go for, which I love. And then finally, I've gone for a Breguet. The reference 7027 in white gold, 37 millimeters in case size. This is a reference that I've seen in the last few years go from strength to strength. I've spoken to so many friends who are collectors out there who've got in on this reference. 37 millimeters, when we talk about wearability, it's hard to argue with that. Even the most hardcore purist out there can't argue with that. It just wears like a dream. And I've got to say, this strap that the previous owner's gone for is not only supple and butter soft, but also quite punchy. I mean, look at that there. Now, that has a visual DNA like nothing else, and it could only be Breguet. Breguet has new leadership, it's got new energy. For many years, let's be completely honest, it has been in the doldrums. It's been nowhere, and it's such a shame, because everybody who loves watches loves Breguet and wants to see Breguet do well. But some of the best buys in all of vintage watches have been Breguet over the last few years. Although that's starting to change, prices are slowly starting to creep up. And these references are starting to come back into the catalogue that Breguet are selling in the primary market right now, which is going to only do one thing to these. It is incredible. This is a beautiful, beautiful watch. Here you can really see the structures. You can see the barrel there. You can see the escapements. You've got the power reserve there at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And let's give it a wind, because, of course, again, it is a hand-wound caliber, which I love. But again, let's have a quick listen to the... Every morning, you don't have to wind it every morning, but can you imagine every morning getting up and the sense of winding that? So incredibly satisfying. When it comes to design, we've got these wonderful soldered lugs in traditional format, and traditionally something that Breguet has always done on this coin edge case, which again is not considerable, certainly enough to get under the cuff. On the dial itself, we have this beautiful guilloche miniaturized dial at 12 o'clock, which echoes pocket watches of the past from Breguet. Traditionally produced using a lathe, so done by hand, not a stamped guilloche dial. Roman numerals in the outer track, blued hands, thermally blued hands, which then match these thermally blued screws all over the architecture of the dial itself, and then a frosted base plate, and different components are frosted as well. So you have this wonderful combination of different factors going on, almost a monotone look aesthetically, but honestly, if there was a Breguet I were to get into, it would be this. It really has everything that you would want. And as well as that, a tremendous value proposition. So this might be the very last time that we see a great value Breguet popping up on this particular table. So there we go. Well, guys, there you have it. That is this week's drop. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm humbled to be here. Thank you very, very much. And it is a cracking drop as always. We've got sports Rolexes, we've got Vacherons, modern Vacherons, we've got vintage Jagers, and we've even got some Cartier mixed in there. It is a full bag that ticks every box you could ever want. So until next time, thank you very much. Do head over to the website and check them out. But until then, go well.